In this video, we're going to take a Windows 10 box and join it to the domain controller, the Active Directory domain that we created. But first we need to adjust the IP address to make sure we have connectivity with our domain controller. So I'm going to open up a command prompt here. And I'll take a look at my current configuration for my IP address. A couple things to point out. First of all, the host name is not what I want it to be. I want this computer to have the name of Client1. And secondly, we can see that there's a DHCP server, which is the IP address of our VMware workstation. The server's running on that program, which is handing out the IP addresses, and it's given us an IP address of 192.168.111.136 in this case. I also point out that the default gateway is 111.2 and the DNS server is 111.2 as well. So we need to adjust some of these things. So let's go ahead and correct the IP address and test our connectivity first. All right, so we're going to use the netsh command to configure the IP address. All right, so I'm giving this an IP address 192.168.111.101, and I'm using for its default gateway the 111.2 that is being used by our network. Next thing I want to do is I want to give this an IP address to the DNS server, our primary DNS server, that's going to know something about the domain we want to join. In which case this is going to be a netsh interface IPv4 set DNS server for Ethernet 0. It's going to be static, and it's going to be the IP address of our domain controller, which is 111.10 in my case, and I'll identify this as the primary. Now I want to add an additional DNS server to query the internet whenever we want to go out to the internet. So it's going to be a netsh IPv4 set, this will be add DNS servers for Ethernet 0, and we just give it the IP address of the second DNS server, which in our case is 192.168.111.2. Now let's test connectivity. First of all, I'll ping 8.8.8.8 to see if I can get to the outside world. I can. I'll ping www.google.com to determine whether or not our DNS resolution is working to the outside world, and it is. Now I'm going to ping the IP address of my domain controller, see if I've got TCP IP connectivity to that, and I do. And finally, and quite importantly, I'm going to ping DC1.cns cns125.class, which is the fully qualified domain name of my domain controller. If I get a right reply from that, I should be good to go to get to join this computer to the domain. So I'm going to move now into PowerShell. And with PowerShell, we can actually do two commands. We can rename this computer and have it join the domain all in one command. So I'm going to use the add-computer command, and I'll dash new name, and we're going to call this client1, and dash domain name. In our case, it's cns125.class. I'll go ahead and hit enter. It should prompt me for a user account's credentials, and I'm going to type in here admin1. And then its corresponding password. Alright, so it looks like looks like it worked, and I need to restart this computer, so we'll go ahead and restart computer. And we'll take a look at this when it reboots. So let's now when it comes time to log back onto this box, I'm going to select other user and type in here admin1. Because if I use the student account here, that's going to log me on to the local computer and not onto the network. So I want to be sure that I'm logging onto my domain here. It's building the profile for admin1. Now let's fire up a command prompt and run it as administrator. Adjust my font. And we'll do an IP config. There's our address. Let's see if we can continue to ping our domain controller. You can see we can get a hold of that. And let's see if we can ping the internet still. Alright, so that's what it takes to join a computer to a domain.